think most people know where they're weak. And again, I think it's the reverse of the culture now, like love yourself, love yourself. I think it's love yourself. Yes, I think that is so positive, but also you can't just have one. Like we need to have balance in almost everything in our lives. That love yourself, but also critique the shit out of yourself all the time. Like, okay, you think you're physically tough. Where do you fall off? Like, okay, when those things happen and when you can challenge yourself, like, do it. And to me, that is loving myself. Of going like, I hate when it feels like I'm upset about something. Like, that doesn't feel good. So it's like loving myself is fixing that and like tending to that and figuring out ways and solutions that's going to work for me to get better at that. That to me is way better than, well, I'm just going to love myself even when it sucks. It's like, make it easier for yourself. Make life easier by doing the hard things of, it's like the fitness and the health stuff. Like, I love myself by doing the harder thing of eating healthy and by focusing on my diet and focusing on fixing my gut or taking time to go to the gym, because I know I'm setting myself up to have it be way easier as I get older. When tougher things come up, I'm going to make sure that I'm consistent with that. Same thing with the emotional stuff now. Like, I can go, okay, this is making me upset. Normally would have crumbled. How can I be stronger in this moment? How can I fix that? And then I can choose to celebrate myself of like, cool, you did it. Like, you didn't crumble like last time. Like, that's awesome. Now let's keep going. I think there's a difference between loving yourself and maybe like recognizing when you're doing good and you can keep that flame going.
I think that's the first thing.
Not gonna work.
Like, Florida has changed me with that.
What?
The cold coffee.
Oh, it's the best.
It's not the best, but you can't not do it here.
Yeah, hot coffee just doesn't fit. Like, I get the like, oh, it's warm, so you want to have something cold, but it's also just like, it's not the vibe.
Yeah, see, I don't care about the vibe. I'm not the vibe part. It's when it's frickin' 95 degrees and like we always have it. I always have it on the way to the gym.
Yeah.
We always have like the windows down and we're cruising, but it's 95 degrees. You're sweating in the car, and then you have hot coffee. It just doesn't work. I've gone to the dark side.
It's awesome.
It's not. It's like such the like white girl, annoying white girl drink.
Iced coffee. Yeah.
Iced coffee.
I don't know. It is, but I think how we drink it, it's like, wouldn't you think the white girl coffee is like a latte or like it'd be like this, but with like
no
sugar, like zero sugar vanilla add-ins, or like.
Yes, but it's still iced coffee. It's iced is the basis. Iced coffee, and then it's like with my, creamer and this and that, coconut milk bullshit.
Yeah.
But it's always like.
Yeah, you're probably right
there. I just
there.
need my iced coffee.
Yeah, because it's awesome. It's awesome.
No.
Especially the black, like, especially you just drink it black, like black hot coffee. It's like, I like it. That, like, I choose to drink that sometimes, but.
Yeah. It's the best.
I don't know. I can see why most people don't like it, because coffee is an acquired taste for people still. Like regular black coffee, that just drinking it plain, for some reason it being hot, just makes it a little less. It's like Old Manny, kind of.
Who's Manny?
Old man-ish.
Who's Old Manny?
I know. I said it and I was like, no. Shit.
Hot coffee, it's just, I miss it. You just can't have it and when it's 95 degrees out.
That's where I do get with the seasons, why it's nice. It's like you rotate your coffee like you do your clothes. Like, oh, this is a little bit colder, so I can start wearing sweatshirts and sweaters. Yeah. And same thing, like I can start doing hot coffee and teas, to where in the summer it's like iced espresso or iced tea.
That's probably the best part about coffee. It's like how versatile it is.
Yeah.
You can switch it when it's hot out. you drink it cold. When it's cold out, you drink it hot. The only problem is like you live here. It's freaking hot 24/7. So it's iced 24/7, cold 24/7.
So it fits me.
You have a cool hack though with the cocktail mixer.
I just started using that for a lot of things. I don't. It was just up there, and we don't really do martinis that often. We haven't been drinking that much lately, but then even when we do, martinis is not our go-to drink.
No.
But we have a cocktail mixer, so I'm like, what can I use with this?
You just put ice and
I'm shaking everything up.
coffee in it.
Everything is shaken.
It's good.
Iced tea shaken. Iced coffee shaken. Does it need to be shaken? Nope. I can easily just swirl my straw around, but it's more fun to.
Then the mixer gets cold.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is cold.
And I put in the smoothie in there the other day too. I like that because
Yeah.
without the top on it, it just looks like a milkshake, like where you'd
Like
get
the
it from a
tin.
diner. Yeah. So
Yeah. I think we should talk about walking.
I think first, I popped on a orange lip for the pod. Discuss.
Orange lip?
Discuss.
It doesn't look orange.
It doesn't? Not in this light?
No.
What does it look like?
That's the first thing. It's not orange. It just looks like a lip gloss.
Okay.
It's glossy. It honestly, it looks the same as it always does because you put a gallon of lip balm on your lips every day anyway. So
Just looks like lip gloss on. Okay, walking. What do you want to talk about with walking?
I just think it's so underutilized, like and underappreciated. You know, whether you're like a beginner exerciser or an advanced exerciser, I feel like it's something probably since COVID, we've started to do more regularly because there was no gyms to go to in the beginning. And it was like, well, what are we going to do for exercise? So we just started going on long walks and it seemed to have sticked now. But like, I would have never done that before. Unless COVID happened, I would have never gone on walks. Granted, you have to kind of live in an area where walks are, you know, maybe it's nice, weather's nice, or like.
I mean, we went in Texas and it was 40 to 30 degrees.
That's true. I'm just thinking average person's probably not going to bundle up and go for a walk.
But that's a different sidetrack with that. Or maybe not sidetrack. It's actually very on track. But like.
Sidetrack is on track. It's a side, but it's still on the track.
Is like, that is a great way to practice kind of like challenging your temperature system. Like,
well, true.
Going out in the super extreme heat, going out when it's colder and it's maybe not as enjoyable, but you still like, if you can get consistent with doing something like a walk or whether you have dogs or taking your kids outside. That's one thing I realized going out in Texas when it was cold. So I was like, I don't like this. I hate it. It reminds me of how much I hate the cold every day, but it is still like, okay, I was able to do it and I challenged my temperature a little bit and then I started to get better with the cold because I was doing it every day. So
yeah.
And same thing with the heat. You kind of start to regulate and then I just see it as like you're able to then have, again, the bandwidth, you know, analogy is like you're able to just handle more, whether that's heat or temperature or long walk or, you know, being able to just be outside for that long.
It's just
having it consistent throughout the year, no matter the temperature. I think, I don't know, it's a different kind of challenge.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I feel like we talk about that often. The resilience, just trying to find that in like every little avenue. That, you know, we both try to do like the little cold shower type of deal. We don't do it the whole time. I don't do it the whole time. I don't know if you do.
I normally just
cold.
start like I'll put it to cold right when I get in, and then I'll try to do it like I chunk up my showers. So boring, but I chunk up my showers like in.
Everybody's like, shower. Who cares?
She's like, no one cares. No one's walking away from this. Like, I changed my shower routine after listening to this.
Yeah.
But I'll get in, so I want like that burst of cold right when I get in there, and then I kind of let it warm up slowly, and then right before I get out, I do a cold blast. But I want I want it to get in there and shock me first, and then I can let the water kind of warm up. But
but I think like what you were talking about of just like challenging your almost like your internal thermostat a little bit, and it's like getting comfortable with different variations of hot and cold. You know, it's like we set the thing everywhere you go. It's air conditioned or the heat's on. You're always comfortable. And like there's just these little battles and challenges. I think that if you kind of play with yourself, like you realize, oh, it's actually doing something. It's actually making me a little bit more resilient. And oh, that's not that. It's not that big a deal. It's cold out. Like I deal with this all the time. I do a cold shower every day, so I go out and like you literally are adapting to that. It's not just like a mind thing. Like your body actually is getting more used to being cold or more used to being warm. It's like I was talking about the other day with here. It's really getting to summer now, and the last month or 3 weeks or so have been really pushing above 90 degrees every day, and we haven't had that to where the first couple weeks was like, oh man, this like I'm just like it's so hot and humid and I'm just gross all the time. But as it's gone on, I'm getting more and more used to it and less uncomfortable from it. It's like it's literally just your body adapting to it, just like you would be working out and weight training. It's like your body starts to adapt and get used to it, gets better at, handling the heat and still being at optimum, performance and energy and all that kind of stuff. It's not draining you as much. That, I don't know, it's just those little things that you challenge yourself a little bit and you do that consistently. I think it's the stuff that those will add up over time. And then, I don't know, you all of a sudden are like outside. You're outside now playing with your kids in the snow. And like, I'm not really even noticing this because that like kids never notice that stuff.
No.
Cold water or cold. I was actually listening to a podcast and I don't remember. They were talking about somebody random, but they said that they started off with their kid, like their baby, and it was only cold baths, cold showers.
Oh, wow.
And the kid has now grown up to be like 4 or 5 years old, and like that has stuck. Like only cold baths, only cold showers the kid takes. It doesn't even phase him. Like I think they live over kind of in like Northern California area.
Okay.
So the ocean is fucking freezing up there too. And the kid's like always out in the ocean, like nothing phases him, whatever. It's like you just adapt to it.
Weird. But I wonder if that kid then in the heat, if he would struggle.
Maybe. Probably. I feel like.
But I don't know because.
I think it's whatever you practice.
How hot does it really get, for people?
California probably.
But I think like, we shower in hot water, but then still going into a sauna. Some people are just. They're better with the heat and some are better with the cold.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if there's something to like, your body temperature is typically 98 point whatever, somewhere around there. But although like when you go out here and it's 95, you think it's horrible. I think we just get so like accustomed to it being 74 degrees wherever we're at and just being around there.
Even 74 degrees.
It might be warm, yeah.
People are like, you keep your house at 74 degrees.
Well, yeah, when it's freaking 95 here, like
when we put the air on, it is 75.
Huh?
Like when we put our air on, we put it to 75.
Well,
to where
74, but
74. But
75 is too hot. 74.
Most people are like 68, 67, 66 is where like.
Yeah, but they're also
like
coming from hot is like, 80. To where hot is like 90 here. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I haven't met many people where I say that and they're like, oh yeah, same.
Oh, really?
They're like, what? That's way too warm. Or if I like set my one city, Abby was not there, and so I like just set the temperature of the hotel room of how I want. And one of the other girls had to go get something for me in my room, and her and the other girl walk in, they're like, oh my god. They're like, it felt like a rainforest. Like it was like, it wasn't even hot. It was humid in there. Like it was so warm. Well, because I think I didn't calculate, like because of the room being small, like you set it to 80 degrees. It's going to get hot in there because it's all.
You set it to 80?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I was cold. Like we were in a cold area. That was like.
That's ridiculous.
I don't know.
This is also where people are dumb though. Is like they will set it to 64 so that they can put a sweatshirt and sweatpants on. It's like.
Yeah, but I get that. Like people wanna just wear what they want to wear. So then they're gonna set the temperature for what they want to feel comfortable wearing.
You know what?
That makes
No.
sense to me.
No. You don't. No.
People want to wear the
Shorts
same
and a
thing year
t-shirt.
round then. That's really
What?
what it is. Like, people want to wear the same thing year round in their house. Like, whatever they're comfortable in, whether it's like sweatpants and a t-shirt or whatever, they want to be able to wear that year round.
But why would you set it so cold that you now have to put a sweatshirt and sweatpants on? Set it to a temperature where you can be in shorts and a t-shirt.
Because maybe they don't like wearing shorts and a t-shirt.
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe they're more comfortable in sweatpants and a sweatshirt, so they want to be able to have the temperature be that.
Is there that big of a difference?
I'm sure for some people, yeah, if they don't feel comfortable wearing shorts and a t-shirt.
This is such a bad take.
It's not a take. It's something that I've heard from people.
That's what I'm saying. People are dumb.
Well,
why would you set it to 62 so you can wear a sweatshirt and sweatpants? Set it to 70 and wear shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah, I guess
So much
I don't
better
know.
of a
Maybe they
life.
feel weird wearing shorts and a t-shirt.
Who feels weird wearing shorts and a t-shirt?
I don't know. People that are uncomfortable with that.
I don't get that.
The same way that,
How
like,
would
if
you
I
be
have to have
uncomfortable?
layers and layers on, I'm like, I get uncomfortable.
But that's what I'm saying is, like, you don't set it to then 80 so that you can wear your bathing suit inside. Like, you set it to...
No, you just move to somewhere where you you just live there.
I like how I'm like, let's talk about walking. And then we talk about temperature for 25 minutes.
Yeah, also, everybody was going to be like, what? Like,
That's
you think I'm stupid for not wearing
No,
sweatpants?
you know what?
You
People
set
are-
your air to 74.
That temperature talk is good podcasting. It's good podcasting.
Okay, you heard it here.
Actually talking about stuff, real stuff, it's bad.
This guy.
What's this guy doing?
He's walking.
But the walking thing, I think it's like, you know, with people wanting to, I don't know, whether they're starting exercise or you're at a point where you're doing so much exercise or going to the gym or something, and it's like you don't know what else to do. I like the walking thing because it can be utilized at almost like every level. Everybody's, I don't know what you want to call
Experience level?
it. Experience level or whatever, yeah. That
Or fitness level?
it can be incorporated everywhere. And it's not even so much for the exercise. It's like you can utilize it however you want. You can use it for the exercise or you can use it for like the mental part of it. You can use it for just the health part of it, of like getting outside, fresh air, sunlight, that sort of thing. It has so many different uses. And I think it's just some people think about it. This is how I used to think about it too, of like walking. It's just like, it's so easy. It's so dumb. What a waste of time. Like, you're not really doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not difficult for me or whatever. But I think when you think about it from a different view and almost like use it to what's helpful to you, like that, I like just getting outside in the sun now and just fresh air. It's not even so much about getting a bunch of steps in, and I'm not doing it for like, oh, I need to get my cardio or get extra exercise or whatever. It's just, I now finally get out in the sun, and that's cool, and that's helping me, and just utilize it for that type of health benefit. And I think there's the people at the advanced level that think it's dumb, throw it away, I don't need it, don't need to use it for anything, to where it's like, yeah, you might be at an advanced level, but how many people are also like, you're in an advanced level, but really you're only working out or exercising for an hour a day or 2 hours a day.
Yeah, that's not much activity.
Right. To where now this is just a way to incorporate, you do 1, 2, 3, 10-minute walks, you just added 30 minutes, or 20-minute walks, you just add another hour of exercise. And then going to the beginner level, it's like, this is a perfect way to just get introduced. Like, we walk everywhere. You have to walk to get places, like even if it's just from your car to the grocery store, that just adding more of that is increasing your activity level. And that is a perfect way to start to get you into these other areas of exercise that, whether it's going from walking to jogging or walking to going to the gym now or whatever. It's just so underutilized that it can be incorporated at every experience level. That's why I like it so much, at least now.
Yeah. That could be a cool, like, challenge for people, is, like, especially during the summer months when I'm guessing it's pretty warm everywhere. Like, that should just be, like, all, until it gets cold out, park in the back of the parking lot. at whatever store you're going to, just park in the back of the parking lot and just practice like getting an extra little bit in, and see if you then start to just make that a behavior and you start doing that even when it gets colder out, or even just do it for right now, just to get an extra couple steps in. And
and I think people don't like, they do it for the exercise. I literally started doing it because I am so annoyed. I drive up and down the lanes or the stalls trying to find a spot, to where I could have spent so much less time just going to the back, because nobody parks back there. I go park my thing and then walk up, and I probably would be in the store before I would be driving up and down trying to find the perfect closest spot.
yeah.
And then it's just like, people are walking and you're going to get annoyed. Like, it's more so just annoying to me driving through all those things trying to find where to park than it is like the exercise part of it. But still, it's like, you just added how many steps. If you can just continue to do that throughout the day. I like that. I do like designating the walk to, because it just kind of puts your mind there too.
I was just bringing that up as an option for people that, they're like, I don't really feel like I have time to fit in a walk. Like, I'm barely fitting in going to the gym. I don't necessarily like doing walks, or like, am I gonna go by like that? I just, to get practice and even walking and doing that. And I like how even if you go to the store and you have as much stuff as you can carry, like leave the cart inside, and just then you're walking back like holding things and have a little bit of weight on it. And I was bringing that option up for people that they know they will not go on a walk, or they don't think they'd fit that in very regularly, but they go to the store and they know that they could just start practicing that.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I like having designated times to do things so that I can fully
Well, it's just nice
wrap my head around that.
I'm going to leave my phone and just go on a little 10-minute walk or 15-minute walk, and just, you're outside and away from electronics or, TikTok or whatever, and you just go for a stroll, let your mind wander a little bit, and it's like, it's not that long, it's not that difficult, it's not like you're going like, okay, I'm going to, put my phone away and do a full 30-minute workout routine, and I'm going to blitz through it and go as quick as it's like, no, you're just going for a little activity, a little mental walk, and then you come back in, and it's like, it's that thing of like, it's one like big hurdle to get over, to just go do it. But then once you're doing it, you like it, it's fun, it's enjoyable. You come back, you feel refreshed, you feel so much better than you did before. And now like you're just in a better mental state in doing it. But it's that like initial, it's just that one step. That one step is always so difficult in so many different things, where it's like, you just got to get going, and then it's fine, and then everything's cool. But that one barrier is always from not doing it to doing it. It's always the biggest thing. Once you're doing it, it's like, oh yeah, this is fine. This is cool. Not a big deal.
And that's why I don't know if this works for everybody, but that's where having it be a separate but having it be maybe for some people it's a task. Having it be a scheduled thing that immediately takes out the, should I? Or like, I should probably do this instead. Or like, I don't really want to. It's like, we go on a walk every single morning right when we get up. There's been a lot of times in the last week where I'm like, I would rather not. Like, I want to start getting ready or whatever it is. But because we do it every day, it's just a part of the routine now. Like, I don't have to I can't necessarily fall into my brain trying to talk me out of it, because like, this is just a part of the schedule of the day. Just go along with it, stay within the schedule, and then you still get it done. I maybe didn't want to do it, maybe didn't like it afterwards, whatever. But same way I don't like showering or brushing my teeth or making food or whatever. It's just a part of the schedule, and you do it, that it takes your brain out of it, which I think faults us a lot with things that we don't want to.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like, it's kind of that thing, if you give yourself the option and you're just thinking about it, and then you start to justify why you shouldn't, and then it's like, you almost trick yourself into like, yeah, it was a good decision to not go do it. It's like, no, you're just you're just coming up with reasons why not to do these things and not to. It's basically like, it's hard, this is difficult, and you're just finding a way to avoid a difficult thing. Where it's like, no, you need to go into that and go do it. And I think, like you're saying, having a schedule of it or a routine of it, it makes it so much easier to go do it then, because it's like, it's almost non-negotiable at that point. It's not a question. It's not an option. You're just like, nope, I go for a walk, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at this time. I always have the time available. It's like on the schedule. Everybody in my surroundings knows it's there. It's like, so I just need to go do it, even if I don't want to. And again, like, there's another like mental battle that if you go do it, you win. You get another win for your day or whatever, and you come back, you're going to feel way better about it than you justifying and figuring out a sneaky way to get out of it. And then all of a sudden when you go to bed, you're like, man, I should have went on that walk.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, you should have. You shouldn't have found, 20 reasons why not to go on it. It's like, it's just because it's difficult that you don't want to do it. It's the same with the cold shower thing. It's like, people are like, yeah, no, it's dumb. It's not that thing. It's like, it's just because it's hard. It's uncomfortable.
And it doesn't even need to be that extreme, I don't think. Like, I think that's where we start to categorize things as being like, oh, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for those types of things. Is because we see it as like, well, now I got to leave my house. I got to walk outside. I got to like find the route that I'm going to walk. Yeah. It's like, if that seems that daunting to you, or if you're like, well, my kids nap during this time and that would be a great time, but like they nap, so now I can't. It's like, choose a way that it's going to work for you. It's like, just walk around your house. Like, it doesn't even need to be, you have to like go out and like be whatever. It's like, just go outside, just walk in your yard.
Yep.
Or like, just set a timer for 10 minutes or whatever it is. Like, walk around your house, walk down your driveway and back how many times. Like, you're still walking, you're still outside, you're still in the sun, you're still outside in the environment. That it doesn't need to be this whole separate to do.
Yeah.
It's like, you probably sit inside for 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe it's, maybe it is your kids are coming outside with you, or you're like, I'm just thinking of the people that would listen to that and go like, screw you, you don't know. How can you make it work, and what can you maybe take out or adjust things that it doesn't need to be this extreme scenario?
That's where I kind of, the screw you, you don't even know. It's like, we all have 10 minutes. This whole, like, I don't have time game, like, we have optimized our lives so much to not have to do shit that you don't have 10 minutes to go for a walk. I just don't buy it. Like, I just don't believe you at that point. That I'm like, we don't have to wash our own dishes anymore. We don't have to clean our own laundry anymore. Like, we have robots that do that stuff. That it's like, you don't have 10 minutes to go outside. Like, literally just like pick a direction, set your timer for 5 minutes, walk, and then when the timer goes off, turn around and walk back. Like, it's not, I understand if you have kids and it's maybe hard to like navigate time with them. Do I do it in the nap? It's like, you could also take them with, and maybe that's difficult and challenging. But now we just get into the point where it's like, you're making every excuse possible to not do this, rather than finding solutions to be able to do it. Because that's really what it ends up coming down to with the exercise or eating right, or having time, not having time to do all this stuff, is you're just not finding solutions. Because there's so many people that are able to do it. Why are they able to? People that work 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, have 2 kids, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You're just not willing to find the solutions anymore. Or just not even anymore, just period. You're not willing to find them. That, to me, it just starts to get into that area of like, you're just making excuses and finding any way out of this you can, because it's difficult.
Well, and that's one thing too that I hope I remember when I have kids is, and I'm not just bringing this like just to like be, only parents are going to be the ones that are like, okay, 10-minute walk. I'm just saying, for me, I think like that would be the hardest, like scheduling wise, I could see where that would, whatever. But one thing that I hope that I can remember is just continue to find ways and solutions. Like I think when I was like on the work weekends, I kept just like getting annoyed, or I'm like, I'm not working out, and that is such a thing for me to like be able to separate from that world and just like do me for a little bit. Um, and I had to let go of, well, this doesn't look like how it normally does, or I don't have a full hour that I normally do. Like maybe I'm chunking it up. Like I have a workout and I have 3 mini breaks throughout the day, and I'm choosing to work out in all 3 of those breaks just to get my regular workout in. Or, you know, I'm maybe not taking a break to do lunch. I'll eat while I'm working so that I can go get the workout in. But when I decided I need to make sure that I prioritize the workout and prioritize food or prioritize trying to get outside, you start to be creative of figuring out ways to make it happen.
Yeah.
To where before I was like, I'm working 18-hour days and almost nonstop. How am I going to fit in a workout, eating good, and getting outside when I'm in a hotel for 4 days? But when you make it a non-negotiable in your head, I don't know, like you start to be creative, like, oh, I'm going to meal prep and bring the food with me, so I don't really have to worry if there's healthier options. Or like you kind of do a little bit extra work, but if it's important to you, it will seem worth it doing that extra work.
Well, it's just effort. Like
Yeah.
it's just putting in a little bit of effort to try to find, and trial and error. It's not like you figure out the perfect solution, out of nowhere. It's like you're trying different things. Oh, that didn't really work. I didn't feel like I got anything from that. Or maybe you have to do it for a certain amount of time too to start to see the benefit of it and the feeling the difference of it. But it's just putting in effort. People just, they want to find it, when you present it to them, their first reactions and thoughts is, how do I pick this apart and poke holes in it, rather than how do I make this work? Like, how do I find the solution in it? I think that's where you can start to tell if you're being defensive, or like if you just really don't want to find the solution. Is that it's like you're listening to this and you're going, well, this, but that, and this, and then over here, and then this. It's like you're immediately already breaking this apart so that you don't have to do the hard thing.
And that's where being honest with yourself can be such a benefit and such a like superpower, because like I think of areas that I did that. It's like, with my eating and my bloating before. It's like I could come up with all the ways, like, well, but I travel a lot, or like I'm trying to eat healthy, but it's like, sure. It's like now what?
Right.
Now what? You're still not putting in the effort because it's not being solved.
Yeah.
Like there's very few issues, my guess, that most people deal with that are like, this is just, I can't crack the case. It's too hard and I'll never crack it.
Right.
It's like, you just got to keep trying and trying and trying and try to do different solutions. Ask people for help. Ask people their suggestions on things, but it's like a lot of those kinds of comments, I guess, are like you said, they're coming from a space of lack and guilt and like, well, it's just harder for me. Like It's hard for everybody in different ways, but
yeah.
It's like what I always say with the parenting stuff, like where I'm excited about that is I feel like I'm going to get an extra gear. Like I don't see it as, I definitely do see it as like, it's going to be hard as shit and exhausting and all of the crap things, and the kids are going to be annoying as hell. Like I was watching a video today, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a horrible mom. But there was these 2 twins and the dad was doing their hair, and they would like say something and then they would both laugh crazy. And I'm just like, shut up. Stop laughing. Like, it's not funny, and you're thinking it's really funny, and that's irritating me. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like 3-year-olds giggling at something, and I'm just like, this would drive me nuts. Like, just stay still. Stop laughing. It's not funny.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing something stupid, and then you're laughing at it. Like, but
I think what you're saying with parents, like, something that we both have noticed is like, God, they just have another gear.
Because you have to.
You have to.
You have to.
You have another. Yeah.
I feel like
you gain another. It literally is like I have 5 gears. Now I have a 6th.
Yeah.
And you just go.
Because I think we do that a lot. I think where it's like we have the luxury of making this choice right now because we don't have kids. Like we have the luxury of we're up a little bit later. So we're going to sleep in, an extra few minutes. Like 2 luxuries on that. We were able to stay up later and we're able to sleep in. Like, oh, I'm not really feeling that hungry right now. Okay. Well, then I can choose to not make lunch. But you got to feed your kids. Or if they're hungry or they want some, you got to make it's like there's so many things, just tiny little things throughout the day where it's like, oh, you're hungry right now, or like, whatever, you fell and not like now I have to deal with every second like I got to get you water, or I got to whatever. It doesn't seem like very big tasks, but when I'm sitting down, it's like, what if I had to get up and get some water right now? Like I think about that so much of like, you have to.
Well, and again, it's like what you said, it's a lot of little stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's not big shit probably. It's not like the big, blow up that happens or that they do this or that or what. It's like it's not these 1 or 2 specific things. It's like just the constant always, and just like a little bit irritating, maybe a little bit, like uncomfortable, or just like a little bit more difficult. And I think that's why you end up having a second gear, because you're just constantly practicing. This situation is a little bit difficult all the time, and you just start to get accustomed to it and better at it and more resilient from it. And that's exactly what we're talking about with all of the other shit. It's like if you have that, you just have to do that now with diet, exercise, all these other little dumb stuff of go outside, get in the sun, go for walks, do a little cold shower. Like if you just consistently make it slightly uncomfortable, slightly difficult, and you do that for long periods of time, like over time you're gonna become so much more resilient. Like I don't know a better word. That's what it is. And I think that's
like
what
you're
kids
adding more
do.
armor.
Yeah, and it's what kids do to parents.
Yeah,
it's like they make them
toughen you up.
Yeah, and that it's the same idea. You just are doing it to yourself. I think that's why it just has to happen or naturally happens, because it's somebody doing it to you.
Yeah.
When it comes to kids.
Yeah.
To where now it's just you have to choose to do it. You have to choose to make this. I have to choose to make this a little bit difficult. I have to choose to do a colder shower and not my comfy, warm, real nice. Like you can still have that. Like we're not saying we do full cold shower. It's just a blast in the beginning and a blast of cold at the end. Still in between, it's nice and warm and cozy, and you get your comfortability. But you do it consistently and enough. It's like all these little things. That's where all the depression and anxiety, I think, is coming from. It's just nobody is doing the little difficult stuff to where now it's like one little thing happens and you just get pushed overboard, and it's crazy. And now I'm anxious, and now I'm depressed, and now I'm all this. It's like, yeah, because you're never challenging yourself.
And there's so many ways to challenge yourself that's so simple. But I want to get back to the other thing I was thinking. Is like when we're working out or whatever. Like I don't know what we were doing. I think it was just like chest press or something. And we're in a high rep range right now, which sucks, and I am so bad at it. But I was like, okay, this next set, I am going to make sure I don't pause.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to push through it. And it's like, I made sure that I did it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's something so stupid. It's like, no one would know. No one, like, I'm just doing it to myself, but I needed to have that. You said you're going to do this, now follow through. Or when we would do the hangs. It's like, at least one out of the 3 sets that we do, I have to make sure I make it to 30 seconds. Like, this is really hard for me, and I'm going to have the other 2 be like, I'm going to try and push it as much as I can, but I'm also going to try to stretch or whatever. But one time, I have to, like, go for broke.
Yeah.
And it's something stupid of, like, if I'm on the side of a building, I got to
Yeah.
It's like, whatever
sometimes
scenario,
you gotta think that way.
whatever scenario you have in your head.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm like, oh, I'm that much more capable.
Yeah.
Because I said I was going to do it, and I did it.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be that dramatic of things. It's like, it's something stupid. It's like I had to hang for 30 seconds. That in my head was a win. But it resonates with me. I don't know if it would for everybody, but having that be the like, oh, cool, thank you for making me better. Or like, cool, I'm going to push myself and that's making me better. Rather than seeing like all these challenges are happening to you. The same thing that with kids, I hope I'm like, okay, player.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, player. Just like,
Yeah.
thanks for making me better. Next gear.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh my God, I have to get another glass of water for you. Or like, I'm tired and you're waking me up or whatever. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Good job. You're just sharpening the knife.
Yeah.
Sharpening the knife.
Well, it's
because then you appreciate them of like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like I'm the parent, but you're making me a better person because you're making me tough.
It's when you have that type of mindset with it and it's helping you, but it's also helping the kid too of like, really, like this is like the 16th time in the last, 2 hours they've asked me to get a glass of water. It's like them seeing you just like go do it with no big deal and whatever, that's also beneficial for them. To where it's like, if you're like, oh my God, another blah, 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 blah. Now your kid's taking all that and they're like, I just want water. Now
Right.
I can't want water. Like,
now I can't ask you for things.
Yeah.
Or it's also like, that's what's taking you out.
yeah.
The glass of water. It's like they don't calculate, well, yeah, but she did it 16 times.
No,
or like,
there's like,
she also had to do that and make me a, lunch or whatever.
Yep.
And do laundry and do the dishes. But they just see it as like, a glass of water's taking you out?
Yeah.
Man, like, how am I supposed to rely on you? Or how can I, whatever. Which I know this seems extreme, but yeah. And then it's like, okay, figure out, again, a non-parent talking about parenting, but like, I hope then as a parent I can go, okay, this is one thing that just like I really don't like doing, or I think, they could help or whatever, then finding a solution to make that easier. It's like, okay, do we need to find a different way to get water set up so that they can get it themselves? If that's something that just like really drives me nuts, like, okay, let's set up a thing on the counter with a stool and they know what cups they can use or whatever.
Yep.
But again, just like that effort of, instead of just like, oh, I always have to get them water. Like, where's the solution?
Yeah.
What's something that I can do to, whatever.
That's one of Jordan Peterson's things about parenting is don't do things for your kids that they can do themselves.
Yeah.
And that is
that's so hard, I'm sure.
That's got to be so difficult because you're sitting there going like, okay, I'm going to find a way for them to be able to pour their own water or get their own water. But now it's like, we got to go through the trial period of this of like, they're going to make a mess and they're going to do this and it's going to take way longer than it should. And, now we're leaving and they're like, well, I want to fill my water. And it's like, oh God, now we got to wait fucking
we're going to be 20 minutes late.
Yeah. For them to fill their freaking water. But it's that thing of like, if you allow them to do that, they're going to get quicker at it.
Yeah.
It's just they have to learn how to get quicker at it kind of thing. And go through like, oh, they spill. It's like, well, they can clean it up then.
Yep. And that's the theme that my mom told me a long time ago. That just like kind of sits like, okay, kind of just use this for everything. Is we were at the mall and there was a kid that just like wanted to go up the escalator. And she's like, it's stupid. Like, you don't care. Like, you get it. You're an adult. You've been up an escalator before. But like, having the kid be able to experience that and, she's like, take extra time to do things. It's like, when you can. It's like, go on a walk and they want to look at a flower. They want to ask you questions about the bugs or blah, blah, blah. Like, don't expect it to be a perfect 20-minute walk and you're going to come back in 20 minutes. Like, plan for 10 and 10 minutes is going to be random shit that comes up. Like, allow the time for them to take their time to explore and to figure out and to learn. Same thing with the water scenario. Like, I think a huge part of parenting in my head and also seeing parents is just patience.
Oh my God.
Patience for them to learn and for them to like experiment with things. And
honestly, I think that's probably the thing why people grow up so quickly when they have kids. It's literally just the ultimate test of patience.
Yep.
It's like they just finally learn patience and because their kid is forcing them to learn it, they are just now learning it with everybody and everything, that you just like you just become more mellow and more patient with everything. It's like, it's probably, I don't know, it might be the biggest reason why people mature so fast. So it's like you just become ultra patient now.
Yeah. And I hope that I can keep that in mind. I feel like I do. I feel like I'm a very patient person, especially when it comes to kids. Like, because I think when you understand what's maybe going on at each like developmental period
Sure, yeah.
of like, oh, their eyes are able to see colors now. So like when we go on a walk, of course they're gonna want to take every second to like look at all the grass and the flowers and the different things because they're like seeing colors for the first time and able to like point it out or whatever. But if I'm just like, who cares? It's a flower. We've seen this one before. Or like, yes, you point out every red thing or point. They can't speak when they know colors, but like, you know, analyzing it or taking time. It's like, yeah, but if you just skip past that, how much of those phases do you not fully take advantage of? And then maybe they're delayed as they get older because you didn't get that time to like fully wrap your head around each one of those phases.
Yeah.
That you can understand that when you're an adult of like, oh, you're learning subtraction. We can't just have you like kind of learn it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to understand, you got to know what it is. Same thing when they're younger. Like you have to understand the mechanics of pouring the water.
Yeah.
Or like holding the cup underneath where the water is coming out so that you know that the water goes in the cup. Or when you see it coming to the edge, you have to learn, oh, when I have it up this high, it pours over. And like, why? And it seems stupid, but like, yeah.
Like, oh, H2O, osmosis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's honestly, it's like a selfish thing too. If they can just do all this stuff as early and as quick as possible, now you don't have to do
Less to do, yeah.
it. You don't have to worry about it.
It's always that thing of like, you got to put in more work so that it's easier for you later.
That is probably
That's for everything.
One of life's lessons.
Yeah. Put in more work so that you can chill later. Do more work when you're younger so you can have a chiller later adult.
Yeah.
Or put in more of effort into your
Even
fitness so that you don't have to worry about it later. Put more time into parenting when they're really young so that they can do more things and you can challenge them when they get older.
And I think there's even faster results of that too. It's
Oh, yeah.
Doing more work now to make it easier right now.
Yeah.
It's like if you're putting in the work and you're more capable, like you're not going to have, aches and pains and, just like all this other weird stuff going on. It's like it can benefit you right now. You don't have to wait 25 years for the payoff. Yeah.
That's what it is. I'm not going to struggle with that. I don't think with parenting. It's going to be the stupid things, like I said. Like, why are you laughing? Stop saying mom 50,000 times a day or what's with the dumb shit. It's not going to be, whatever. But, do you hear my stomach? It is growl city.
I thought that was a leopard outside.
No.
But
It's my stomach. I'm hungry.
the going back to the walking thing, I think if you're trying to find a way to get back into exercise, that's probably the way to go, because it gives you so much more than just exercise. And I think generally the people who don't exercise probably don't like exercising. That's why they're not doing it. And the people who are exercising probably like it or have found a way to like it. That's why they're doing it. I think the main goal, which is like what we talked about in the last podcast, is trying to find a way to like it. And I just think walking is it's so low maintenance. It's so like you don't have to drive to a gym. You don't have to buy equipment. You don't have to you don't have to warm up for it. You don't have to stretch for it. You don't have to do mobility for it. You don't have to have a cool down after. It's like you don't have to even think. You just go out and you start walking. It's such a good way to enter yourself into that atmosphere, but it gives you I think that's the problem with like weightlifting and, you know, going to the gym, and like maybe you're seeing people running and you're like, oh, I want to do that now, or on the elliptical, or bike it. You see people biking around in Florida all the time. It's like, oh, I want to do that. And that's what I'm going to do to get myself to start exercising. So then you buy the freaking bike and you buy the shoes and you get all this stuff, and it's such a big barrier to entry. And then you start doing it, and it's so much more difficult than you thought it was. You didn't realize like how shitty your balance is now because you haven't ridden a bike in 25 years, and it's difficult, it's hard, it's freaking hot out. It's all this stuff, and then you end up stopping doing it because of how big of a thing it is, to where the walking, it's so like there's so nothing
low, like you
about
said,
it.
low
Maintenance, low barrier to entry. It's not difficult. Generally, it's not difficult. And it's almost exercise that's meditative in a way too. It's like you're getting so many different things from it, besides the exercise portion of it, that I think it just checks so many boxes and would for so many people that it just, I don't know. To me, it's like it's the best way to start off. It's the best way to start off because you go to the gym right away. Now you're in this environment that's, you know, kind of, it's the gym environment that maybe makes you feel uncomfortable, or it's the weightlifting, and you maybe don't know what to do with it, or maybe you do. You have a program, you're gonna follow it, but it's also difficult and it's hard, and then you're not getting the meditative stuff. You're not getting the sunlight and the sunshine. You're not getting the fresh air outside. You're not getting the easiness of just like, oh, I can just go out and do this for 10 minutes and then come back and then it's over with. So I just think it's something that if you're thinking about exercising and you don't know where to start, that is my recommendation, is start there, because it gives you so much more than just what the exercise is. And I think it's going to help you gain that relationship with exercise in a positive way, rather than going to something that's maybe going to give you a negative relationship right away, and now you have to battle that problem.
And I think besides, obviously like resistance training, I think you'll see a quicker crossover into like your day-to-day life. Like we were in Key West and we were walking around. I was like, I am so grateful that we are able to do this and walk around, and it doesn't exhaust us, and we don't need to like Uber anywhere or, get transportation, because we can just walk around. And there's a lot of people that wouldn't do that, or wouldn't choose to do that, or maybe wouldn't be able to do that, or would ruin their day because they would get, aches in their leg or get too tired, or that. I think you'll see the crossover of, you're not getting as tired throughout the day because walking around cleaning your house or doing dishes or, walking to the grocery store. If you're on your feet and practicing being on your feet when you have to do that, it doesn't make it as difficult because your tolerance is a little bit higher, that I think you'll see the crossover fairly quickly if you start practicing that.
And it blends so well into the schedule too. It can be, I think like I was talking about earlier, is that barrier of like, it's so hard to take the step, but once you do, it's fine. That barrier of going to the gym, or, going on your bike and going to ride the bike. It's like, now you got to get all this stuff on. You got to do this, you got to do that. To where walking, it's like you can literally just go, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk, and literally get up and walk out the front door, and you go. So it blends nicely into your schedule, and you can kind of fit it anywhere too. And then like what you're saying, that crossover now of like, you're having to walk everywhere and do that. So now it's just like you're training yourself to be able to handle more of that and do more of that, and add a stronger, like, your body is stronger to do that now. So now it isn't as difficult to, if you're on your feet all day, because you've been practicing, walking around doing that. I think there needs to be a difference though of like, just because you're maybe on your feet a lot that day or each day, that it's not considered going for a walk. It's like this needs to be extra activity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
it needs to be something that you're doing additional to what you're already doing. It can't be like, well, I'm on my feet a lot and I'm walking around and I'm doing this and doing that. So I'm getting my walking in. It's like, yes, but your body's already adapted to that and is doing that consistently. You need to add additional. And this is putting you on that path to then just do more and more and more and more.
And I think the being outside aspect is huge.
I think it's huge too.
It's like, yeah, you get the benefit of the physical activity, but the being outside and in the sun, no matter what the temperature is, like there's so many studies that back that up of, whether it's helping your sleep cycle regulate a little bit more, or vitamin D, or you're able to just get outside and away from all of the
Viewing
electronics
the
in your
is a big deal.
getting away from all the electronics in your house, and just separating from what's in your house. Like you go back to that same person that is like, fitting in a walk, in my day is going to be challenging. It's like, yeah, but you can take 10 minutes or 5 minutes to disconnect from all that shit at home. Even if that is your time to like, I'm just going to go out and the dishes aren't following me out here, or the laundry's not following me out here, or whatever.
Yep.
Just a chance to dial in and refocus.
Yeah,
I like it for that too.
And I think if you see everything as a positive or like a benefit to you rather than a barrier, it's so much more helpful, and it allows you to go do the thing. It's like here where I'm like, it's freaking 95 degrees out. I don't want to go for a walk in 95 degrees. But then when I kind of when I switch it and I'm like, yeah, but that's just testing me. Like, it's just making me more resilient. It's going to be difficult, and that's why there's going to be so much benefit from it. Is it's hot out, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and that's going to be good for me.
And it's like, what other things come up with the realization of that? Of like, okay, it's 90 degrees out. I'm going to be super hot, and I'm going to be worn out, or blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe I'm going to focus a little bit more on my water intake today. Or I'm going to make sure that I get my electrolytes in. Or vice versa. It's really cold out, and I'm noticing how annoyed I'm getting. It's like, maybe I just need to toughen up.
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
That's a practice for me of, like, every time I'm like, I hate this. The wind's hitting my face. I can be like, you're being a little yacht, right? Like, calm down. Like, you're being a little baby with this, like, it's wind.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm like, this is hell.
Yeah.
Like, I get to practice paying attention to my body, paying attention to my water intake. This side, growing up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's just so the culture now is it's just like, how easy can we make everything? What?
Thinking like I want, I want walks and being outside to be a huge part of kids. And then to think of like, just your kid like looking at me being like, my mom hates the wind. It's like, what do you expect from that? Like, like I'm wanting you to be like super tough and handle all these things.
Yeah.
And then they see me like, the wind takes you out.
They're like, yeah, my mom like gets real pissed about getting me water and the wind.
Like she gets cold and it crumbles.
Could you imagine like at school, they're like learning about the different things. It's like, and then there's wind. It's like, oh, my mom hates wind.
Yeah.
Like, what? Why? How or why would that ever come up?
But that would definitely be me if I didn't focus on it.
Yeah, well, it's just like...
Which, I get it. There's something funny with it. It's not like... I don't think it's that detrimental if my kid sees me like, oh, I'm so cold and I hate it and da-da-da-da. I don't think it's going to like ruin anything.
Yeah, you can't avoid
But it's also just like... I don't know. Am I just joking or am I like, to my soul, like, I hate the cold?
Right. Well, and it's becoming a thing that makes you not do it now. So now they're legitimately seeing you like quit on it because of wind.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, well that doesn't seem like a good enough reason why to not do this.
Sure.
But it's just that's the culture. It's how do we make everything easier? And I think I don't know. For me, I've realized at least, and also looking outward, it seems like with trying to make everything easier all the time, that's why everybody's anxious and depressed all the time and frustrated and doesn't know what they're supposed to do or what life's purpose is or, you know, all of these major things. Is it's like, because you're taking the easy way out all the time.
And life gets hard naturally.
Yeah. And now you're just making it harder.
Yeah.
So it's like.
Because again, talk about the tolerance.
You're making it harder by making it easier on yourself. To where if you want to make life easier on yourself, you have to make life harder on yourself.
Yeah.
You have to do the hard shit to make life easy. It's like, it's maybe a little ass backwards, but like we want to, I don't know, there's this natural inclination to, oh, things are difficult. How do I, you know, cut the negativity out of my life, or cut this out of my life, and get rid of the hard stuff because it makes my life so much harder. It's like, no, your life is hard because you don't do difficult things. If you did difficult things, then it wouldn't be so hard.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, I mean, and
because
not
it's toughening you up. That's
Yes.
that's the thing. Is like, if you're callousing your hands get callous from, you know, lifting weights or something. They're now tougher because they went through hard stuff. It's like, it's the same thing with your mental state. If you have easy breezy life, you know, it's the shit that people always say about like rich kids. Oh, they've had it easy, and then one little thing goes wrong and they crumble. It's like, yeah, and same with you. You've made your life so easy in every category possible that now when something little comes up, you fall apart. It's because you're not, we've made life so easy with every little thing that we do that we now have to choose to make it hard. It's like we're watching, you know, all these 1883 and 1923, watching all these old shows where it's like, they don't have vehicles, they ride horses, and that shit sucks. Or they walk to where they're going, and they have to, like, you know, trade items they have for food just to have food, and they have to grow their own food, and they have to do that. It's like all of these things that were difficult and are difficult, we don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. We go to the grocery store and the food's right there for us. We don't have to kill an animal. We don't have to harvest it. We don't have to do shit. We just go home, take it, and put it on the grill that starts up right away. We don't even have to make a fire to cook the damn thing anymore. It's like that is part of the reason why life is awesome, but it's also making you a little weakling.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to find ways to challenge yourself. And it's stupid stuff like a cold shower, going for the walk when it's 95 degrees out, going and lifting weights. We didn't have to lift weights before. Every job was manual labor.
Yeah.
Life was manual labor. To where now we have to go to a gym or do these things just to stay in shape. And you have to choose to do that stuff. Otherwise, you're going to be weak.
And it's really not a lot of tough things. Like, that's one thing I was trying to do with myself was, it's like I said, the holding for 30 seconds or doing the cold water, or like anytime I was like, oh, that seems like a lot. It's like if I caught myself doing that, I was like, now I got to do it.
Yeah.
Or like if I thought I'm sitting down, I'm like, oh, I should probably do the dishes. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's like, now you got to get up right now and do the dishes.
Yep.
And then because you did that, do something else afterwards. Like, now you also got to wipe the counter off or something. Like, it was that repetition of, I feel this way, I'm acting this way, I'm having this thought. Now I got to follow it up with doing that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it's like my biggest thing, I think, when we talked about in the podcast that we didn't, we're not going to post, but we can get into those at a different time. Like the versions of toughness, like, I think there's like physically tough, mentally tough, and emotionally tough. I struggled the worst with being emotionally tough. So anytime something like, I know that's what I need to work on. I know that's where I'm weak. That anytime something of that nature comes up, I see it as, like I said, with the kid thing of like, okay, this is a chance right now in front of me. I don't have to search for things. Like, they will come up. Life happens. Okay, this is something that I'm struggling with. My old behavior would be to crumble. So what's the opposite of crumbling? Where do I want to be? Even if it's a tiny step and I'm not like taking it with ease or being the best that I can be, it's still what's 2% better than what I would have been. And now that's my new, like,
yeah, so your new like maintenance liner. That's your
yes.
new like, yeah, you leveled up almost to where now.
It's like, okay, I showed myself I was able to do that. Now keep doing that and then add the 2% or add the 2%. That I think most people know where they're weak.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's the reverse of the culture now, like, love yourself, love yourself. I think it's love yourself. Yes, I think that is so positive, but also you can't just have one. Like, we need to have balance in almost everything in our lives. that love yourself, but also critique the shit out of yourself all the time. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you think you're physically tough. Where do you fall off? Like,
right. Mentally tough.
mentally tough.
Weak?
Like,
Are you
are
emotionally
you
weak?
on? Yeah. So then, like, okay, when those things happen, and when you can challenge yourself,
Yeah.
like, do it.
You should. Yeah, I think the love yourself message is, it's just like anything, you know, it's there's a pendulum swing, and then it goes way too far, and now you got all these people that are trying to love themselves and trying, and they still don't feel good. They still don't know what's wrong or why they can't figure shit out or whatever, and it's like, you know, it's time and place. Like, there's a certain amount you should love yourself. There's a certain there's a time and place where you should love yourself. But then there's a lot of other areas where it's like, yeah, I need to critique myself and I need to be better.
And to me, that is loving myself.
Yeah.
Of going like,
yeah, in a way.
I hate when it feels like I'm upset about something. Like, that doesn't feel good. So it's like loving myself is fixing that.
Yeah.
And like tending to that and figuring out ways and solutions that's going to work for me to get better at that. Because now there's more times than not where I'm going to be like I always bring up the example of like, you know, like it used to be like, you'd look at me funky and I would spiral for the rest of the day of like, are you kidding me? He looked at me like that. Like, what? And it's like, you didn't even know. Like, it had nothing to do with anything. But then that whole day sucked. And it's like, I just spent half a day feeling like crap, to where now I'm like,
yeah,
that doesn't mean anything. Like, I know how to analyze the situation better because I've worked on that. I've given myself a gift of, I love you. Here's a gift of being happy majority of the time. That to me is way better than, well, I'm just going to love myself even when it sucks. It's like, make it easier for yourself. Make life easier by doing the hard things. It's like the fitness and the health stuff. Like, I love myself by doing the harder thing of eating healthy and by focusing on my diet and focusing on fixing my gut or taking time to go to the gym, because I know I'm setting myself up to have it be way easier as I get older. When tougher things come up, I'm going to make sure that I'm consistent with that. Same thing with the emotional stuff now. Like, I can go, okay, this is making me upset. Normally would have crumbled. How can I be stronger in this moment? How can I fix that? And then I can choose to celebrate myself of like, cool, you did it. Like, you didn't crumble like last time. Like, that's awesome. Now let's keep going. I think there's a difference between loving yourself and maybe like recognizing when you're doing good and you can keep that flame going.
Yeah, well, I feel like, you know, whoever's listening is probably old enough now to realize like life is going to happen whether you want it to or not. And I guess my solution to that is then to be resilient in all of these areas.
A 5-year-old listening to this. Like, yeah, okay.
Like, be resilient. Okay.
Yeah. If you're like, well, I'm supposed to get my own water? What?
Yeah.
You're like, Mom, are you?
But it is. It's like,
or they're like, can you get me water? Like, super hesitant.
There's going to be so many situations that come up that you have no control over. And it's like, do you want to be weak in that? Like, physically weak, mentally weak, emotionally weak, to where you can't handle these situations? Or you practice now and you choose these difficult things to, like, you're choosing to practice it. You're choosing to practice being an emotionally tough and mentally tough and physically tough. And then when these things come about, now they're not as difficult because you've calloused up. You've gotten tougher. They're not going to hurt you as much, to where it seems like the culture now is everybody going in the opposite direction of, well, everybody needs to walk on eggshells around me so that I don't get hurt. It's like, you need to not be a certain way so that I don't get hurt. It's like that people are just not going to, they're not going to do that. Like, you're not going to get a culture that is so, that everybody's on the same page of not hurting other people's feelings or just simply bad things happening. It's like, you can't dictate a culture where now people don't die. It's like, people around you are going to die. And then you have to deal with that. Or you have to walk to the grocery store. You have to lift things up. You have to do all these physical tasks. You're not going to get to a culture where we're just not lifting anything, and it's not like even if somehow we did get to that, it's like you still have a body that is functioning, all of the internal organs and heart and arteries and all this shit. It's like you could not exercise your whole life but still eat like crap, and you're going to get a stroke. You're going to get a clotted artery. Something's going to happen. It's like these tough things are going to come whether you like them or not. So do you want to be able to handle them, or do you want to crumble when it comes up? And we're getting to a point now where the smaller and smaller things are making people crumble and crumble more. And it's because you're not challenging yourself. We're trying to avoid challenge in every way. Everybody gets a trophy now. Every kid gets a trophy. Every kid has the same amount of playing time. You know, your job, it's not based on who's the best at it. It's now has to be culturally diverse. It's like all of these things are trying to make it even and equal and like easy for everybody. It's really just, we're going to make it easy on everybody. That is making people crumble when shit gets just a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Oh, I have to work 41 hours this week and not 40. Ugh, how horrible. Now I'm going to have to get 14 more hours of sleep and this and that, and I don't have time to work out now. I don't have to. It's like you're so weak because you're not being challenged. And that's what's the tricky part is you have to do it yourself now. Life doesn't actually challenge you much anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like your example of me looking at you and you practicing not to take anything from that. It's like, even with that, you're having to wait for something to happen to practice it. To where I'm like, no, go out and practice it. Try to find emotionally tough situations and be better at them. Like, it's not like, well, I can only work on my physicality if that comes up in the day. It's like, no, go to the gym and work out and get physical so that when it comes, you're prepared.
I have to pause, and I'm so bad, and I'm editing it, so I think it's fine.
You're back. I like this topic so much. I just
got so dizzy. Whoa.
That'd be great. You passed out.
I had to pee so bad that I'm.
You're dizzy.
Yeah. Putting myself out of commission.
This is so I just love this stuff so much.
Well, okay, because
that's just like what I am to the core is just like be tough, like shut up and be tough. And there's negatives to that for sure, but I think that's why I get so like I just get into it.
Well, and especially I think not talking about anything personal, but like that's what what we've been talking about with you so much lately is just like, oh no, I just like wasn't putting an effort. Yeah. Like taking back the stop blaming other things and other people and just taking ownership of like, hey, maybe you suck sometimes. Yeah. And that goes for everybody. Like to me, it was like, okay, I think I'm pretty physically tough sometimes mentally in certain situations. Like I'm pretty good at like, okay, I don't want to like keep pushing through. It was like emotion. Like how can I be that person? But then someone looks at me and I'm like, oh my God, I can't handle myself. It's like those things should not correlate. And for me, I always think like, what's the thing to not be motivated by, but kind of have like your reasoning, like your why kind of. And for me, it's always like kids. Like I want to be an awesome parent. And I don't think I can be an awesome parent if I'm like really emotionally fragile. Yeah. How can I guide someone who is dealing with all of their stuff as a kid, which is appropriate, if I'm just as weak? Right. It's like, that's okay for them, not for me. Yeah. It's like, who do they have to look to then? To like, oh, you're upset. This is how you handled it. Or someone made you mad. They didn't see me freak out on them or get mad at them to where, before I would maybe have done that. It's like, I don't want my kids to see that's how you handle things. It's like, how do you handle it with grace and maturity? That's what I want kids to see. And So I think it's just like breaking down like, oh, where do you kind of suck? And like you said, like finding ways to bring that upon yourself. Like I can't always go like, make me mad right now. And then I'm going to
Yeah.
deal with it. Like it's just
Yeah.
challenges throughout the day. But I try to just like be more and hyper aware of when it could be an option for me to work on it, of like, you know, on those weekends when I'm getting 3-4 hours of sleep and then I'm needing to be razzle dazzle the next day.
That's an emotional.
It's like,
battle.
how can I be tired and drained, traveling all the time, not eating or whatever? It's like, okay, how do I work on this? I'm going to still be professional and polite when I'm talking to people. I'm not going to use my tiredness as an excuse to like not be on it or not be able to like be present with people. It's like, put your shit to the side, put your whatever exhaustion to the side and go, I'm going to still show up for you in this moment as whatever role I'm in here, and, you know, not fall into the weakness of that.
I think the emotional toughness, like how to test that or practice that, is just like, you know, try to sit with how am I feeling emotionally. It's like, if you're kind of being negative about everything, or like everything is seeming like a big task or difficult, you know, you just wake up and it's like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. It's like, you're already noticing my emotional states kind of shit, and I got to figure out how to make that better. It's like you're getting real-time practice right there. It's like, if you just kind of tune in for a second, like, how am I feeling emotionally? And it's like, and then all of a sudden these things just start dropping. It's like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, and you're starting to like get a little whiny about it. It's like, there is an emotional test right there, and you can practice getting better at that. And I think what's cool about like those three types that we kind of laid out, of the emotional, mental, and physical, is they tend to all blend to each other a little bit. Like, just because you're working on something emotional, usually that is mental too. And sometimes, like, I think those can be pretty interchangeable. But then, like, same with physical and mental. You know, it's like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym. It's tough. It's tiring. It's like you're having a physical toughness battle right now and a mental toughness battle right now. And then probably a little bit emotional too, to where it's like, well, why don't you want to go? Like, what weird shit's going on in your brain that is like making you get all weird and sad about going to the gym? It's like, is there, you know, image issues going on? Is there like, you've tried this before and failed, so now you feel like a failure and you're battling emotional failure stuff that you have to deal with? But they tend to all like blend to each other.
Oh yeah.
So if you think you're just working on one, you're probably working on all three all at the same time.
Well, and going back to like, you know, me, you know, on the work weekends, I was like, okay, I'm not getting the sleep. Like, I'm not hitting my markers of health per se, but okay, I'm not getting sleep. So I am going to be extra dialed in on my food, because now then looking even further into it of, okay, when I'm emotionally drained or physically drained, what are my
Cues?
behavior patterns? It's like, I start to immediately reach for more caffeine, or like, I'm like, well, it's okay that I have an energy drink and espressos all day because I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Or, well, I did a, you know, crazy work weekend, so when I come back home, like, I disconnect. And then I'm like, if you had kids, would you be able to disconnect, or would you want to emotionally disconnect? No. So I can't do that with you.
Yeah.
I still need to listen to your stories and talk to you and still be as present as I would want to be, even though
I'm
like,
just trying to connect with you.
Even though I'm tired, I'm like, I was so on and in it for these people. I need to be able to do that when I come home with whatever tasks I have at home. That was something that I was trying to be very aware of.
Yeah.
Of like, what are my tendencies when I get like this? Do I start to eat crappy? Do I start to go for the caffeine? Do I start to be a little more snippy with people? Do I maybe it's like, I'm just not there. Okay, you need to fix those things, because in a way, even though it's maybe mental toughness and physical toughness with how I'm doing everything, it's still relating to a coping mechanism of my emotional state.
Right.
So it's like, where I was editing the last podcast, I need to do just like a clip of just like all the stupid hand movements that I do. Like, there was when we were talking about the cups, and it was just like my hands doing this, and now this. You just like took the audio off of it.
Yeah.
Which not like the audio really makes a difference of explaining what I'm doing, but
You showed me one where I was doing something and you were like, oh man. I think I think my kind of emotional cope is like go get treats or go get something, ice cream or something like that. And I feel like yours is the caffeine.
Oh,
It's like if
100%.
we're a little bit like, mentally, getting weak or challenged or like emotionally challenged, our little copes are, how to like make us feel a little better.
Yeah.
Me is like, where are the treats and the chocolate and that kind of thing. And yours is like, I'm just going to dump caffeine down my system.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like I haven't thought about that. I haven't really noticed that or thought about that, but those seem somewhat clear to me, is like for each of us of what we do.
Yeah, and I think it's like that can be day-to-day life things too. Like, it's like where does the snowball start to roll? It's like, okay, I notice if I'm tired, the caffeine starts to kick in.
Yeah.
And starts to kick in a lot. And then now I'm just, I got a good night's rest, but I liked having the energy drink and a triple shot espresso that day. So now that's just a behavior that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Or it's like, when I'm tired, that's when I do want to go get Chinese. That's when I do want to have that stuff. Well, now I have the feeling of carbs in my system. Now I'm just starting to crave those things and want those things. So now I'm just eating them a little bit more regularly. And now it's like, well, I'm having fun with food. That's not enough anymore. So now I want to have fun, and now let's get alcohol. Or now that's not fun anymore. So now I need to go out and get alcohol, and I need to go to, it just starts to, it's so crazy how fast we level out. And then that thing isn't enough anymore. So now we're searching for the next thing and the next crazy. Like, it starts with, I'll just have one more cup of coffee. And now I'm doing a 300 milligram energy drink and triple shot espresso. And I'm still like, I can't.
Yeah. I think, and that's what's funny is I think most people would probably agree with that. Of like, yeah, it is a snowball. Like, I can see my pattern. I can do that. That's, I think then when we talk about like, okay, now when you do the positive version of that, people don't believe that it works that way. It's like if you're eating 7 days a week and it's all shit meals, and we're like, just try to do like make dinner one night. That's a good meal and it's healthy. And then it'll snowball into that. They're like, no, that'll never work. I have to just go crazy right at 7 days a week. It's like, but we just talked about how it goes negative slowly like that. And you can see that pattern for yourself. It's the same way going positive. You just start slow, and it'll incrementally go and start building and building and building. And then all of a sudden, like, you're making dinner every night, and it's easy breezy. It's not that big a deal. It's not crazy. And then you maybe have those moments where it's like, oh, I want to go get something to eat, and you do. But then if you're able to go like, okay, I know what this is, and after this, I'm cutting it off. Like, we're making dinner the next night, and you get back on that. You keep it going. But it's funny how, like, we see it in the negative way of how it snowballs, and that's how it happens. It almost happens unconsciously, but nobody wants to believe that it happens in the positive direction. Everybody thinks like the formula is, oh, you have to just like cold turkey or just like go crazy right away.
Yeah. And that's where I think it's just, again, being aware of your actions so that like, okay, when I'm tired, I tend to do this. So then like, I don't actually want that food. I'm just tired.
Right.
So, or it's like, for me now, I know, okay, when I'm traveling a lot and I'm tired, I'm not getting the same amount of sleep that I am, I'm, whatever, I'm going to go for the caffeine. So I'm going to allow myself to go for the caffeine. But when I'm not in my travel season, I'm cutting it down. Like, I'm figuring out when to schedule myself regulating. Yeah. And maybe those are for longer periods of time. But like, I also, now that I'm allowing that or knowing that I'm coming off of it during the season, I'm not choosing that as much. I'm not choosing the caffeine as much because I know it's just you don't actually need this. So you're just coping with it.
Yeah.
So, but it is like when you can start to learn your tendencies.
Yeah.
it feels more like you're in control, less than like, well, I just always want to have bad food, or I just like, I always need that thing, or I don't want to go to the, whatever it is. It's almost like troubleshoot your system of like, it's just because I'm tired.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know that's why I want that
Yeah.
food. I know that's why I want the comfort food because I'm sad right now, or,
Yeah.
whatever it is. It's like,
What I like about this conversation of, those three things is, I can identify that like the physical toughness is the easiest one for me. Like I like exercising, I like going and working out, I like going for walks and doing that. So I think like if you can kind of identify which one you're maybe best at, when you're in these weird funks, like that's where I would go to the one you're best at and try to do. Like if I'm feeling weird, to me it's always like, okay, let's like get up, go for a walk, or maybe I need to, go down to the apartment gym and do something with the bands, or go into the pool and swim or something like that. I immediately go to like, this is the one that I already kind of like to deal with and do, so I'm going to go to this. And then it was like we were talking about before of, it kind of all filters into each other a little bit. So now when I go get a little, maybe physically more tough, or I go challenge myself physically because I like that, now I'm starting to regulate a little bit and I can handle the mental difficulty of whatever's going on, or the emotional difficulty of whatever's going on. So I think if you can kind of figure out which one you're maybe best at, and then when you feel yourself like, oh, like I'm tired and
have
this,
that be your
and
cope.
yeah, just go, okay, say it's the emotional one. You're really good at like meditating and sitting with that. You kind of always like doing that, or that's the easiest one for you to do. It's like, okay, sit and meditate then. And then maybe that is going to be able to get you to an equilibrium so that you can handle if there's a mental difficulty, or if there's a physical thing where it's like, I'm just having a tough time getting active. It's like, so you do your 5-10 little meditation thing, or like emotional work because you like doing that. Now you can get to equilibrium, and now it's like, okay, now I can go to the gym and get this done. And for me, it's like vice versa. It's like, I need to go to the gym and do that shit first and get that physical challenge, and then it's like, okay, now I can start to think about all this stuff that's maybe bugging me, or like, oh, it was so hard to do the dishes and the laundry, and I got all these tasks to do. I got to fix the car, I got to do this. To where now it's like, okay, I got like, I hit my a better state of mind because I did my thing. Now I can handle these with a little bit more ease. They're not so daunting of tasks. So I think if you can find which one you're kind of best at with that, that can be a cool tool to use if, one of these other ones has a big barrier for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think is yours?
My strength?
Yeah, out of those.
My mental.
Mental?
Yeah. I feel like I would want to say physical, but I feel like I'm physically tough because I can mentally push through it.
So what would, do you know?
Like my physical, I'm like, I feel like my body gives out on me a lot.
Do you know like what, I don't know, like what a tool would be for that then?
Like if I'm, okay, so like say like a physical struggle. Like, okay, like with what, like I said the other day of like, I'm physically getting so fatigued in this workout and I'm like struggling to push through to the high rep range. I can now clock in to like, this is good for you. You have to push through. This is good for you. This will benefit you. This will make you stronger. This is something you're lacking in. And I don't like to lack in things. So push. That's like, then that pushes me through the physical stuff because like mentally I can rationalize those things. And then same thing with me working on the emotional stuff. It's like, to me, I always use like emotions, and I still feel this way. Like your emotions are things that are happening to you that I don't feel like I have any control over them. But then I can use the mental space of, okay, regardless of whether you think they're happening to you or you have control over them, learn how to work with that. Like, how do you get better when, like, say it's like, to me, it's like, I think emotions are someone else talking to me, making me sad or making me angry or whatever. So how do I deal with that person? It's like, how can I mentally come up with solutions? How can I mentally come up with a game plan for when those things are happening to me, what are you going to do? What's the step by step to, you know, whatever, deal with it? That I've always been really good at
So if you're
staying realistic with the present, being able to plan for the future, and I'm not saying like plan like, I think what I mean by that is I have a good grasp on what I think of things, how I feel about things, when something comes up, how to push through even if it's difficult, or what's going to be work smarter, not harder, but I also know how to work hard. That I think more comes from my mental space of being able to analyze
so if you're
and break things down.
if you're feeling like, you know, say it's like the Dupre example, or at the when you're there
Work weekends, yeah.
And you're kind of feeling that like, oh, I want more caffeine, or you're maybe having like this emotional struggle or something. Your tool with that is almost to just go to like, just like get mentally tough. You just you're able to just, your brain just starts to go like no, this is what it should be. This is how I'm gonna be tougher. This is how I'm this, that, whatever, and that kind of hits your equilibrium of like, okay, now I'm not as emotionally fragile, and it's not that big a deal. Or now like I've worked up the courage or whatever to like try to find that 5 minutes on this weekend to do a little bands or something physically or whatever.
I'm able to break down the scenario of,
Gotcha.
oh, you know, it's like, oh, it's middle of the afternoon and I know that I still have 8 hours left or whatever, and I want some more caffeine. I can then look at that situation and go, okay, what are the benefits? What are the weaknesses of this? Benefits, maybe I'll get another jolt. Weaknesses, okay, this is going to last how many hours in my system? I may not get as good of a night rest for then tomorrow. So is the cons, do they outweigh the pros, or vice versa? And then, okay, if I do decide I am going to have the caffeine and I feel like that's okay, what's some things that I can put in place so that I can still do that effectively and as smart as I can? Well, I'm going to make sure that I have 2 bottles of water before I go get the coffee. Or I'm going to make sure that, okay, if I have the coffee, I need to drink it by this amount of this time. Or like, I think that's also a negative part of me with that, is it takes me so long to make decisions or to do that because I'm analyzing the whole picture.
Sure, but you typically make the right decision then.
But I do take a long time to do that. But yes, I'm very confident then of like, I know how I feel about things. I know how I'm going to go about it.
That's where people might get like tripped up with that, where like, I don't know, I guess just like knowing you, when you make a decision, it's really weird. Like, you typically make the right decision.
There's typically a game plan.
To where I think people that, you know, it's like the example of like, oh, I'm supposed to work out today, and then all of a sudden you find all these reasons on how to not work out, and then you're justifying it, and then you end up not going and working out. To where that is the negative or bad example. That's the example of like having weak mental toughness, or being weak mentally. Of, you somehow found a way, you let your emotions dictate all of this, so that you could get out of something difficult. To where yours is opposite of like, you just get extremely logical and you figure out what the best solution is to it, not the solution that's going to make you feel comfy, you know? To where I think people generally will do the opposite of what you do. And it's like, well, then mental toughness is not your probably best version of that. It's like, you're either probably emotionally better or physically better, and you got to do one of those two things.
Yeah, and I just try to...
because you leave it, and I guess here's a way to kind of judge it too, is like, you leave it going like, yeah, that was a good decision. And then a week later, or at night, 2 days later, 3 days later, a week later, you go, yeah, that was a good decision. To where I think you can kind of tell that night or a week later, you going like, oh, I should have done it. It's like, that's kind of your tell of, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. And that's me. Like, I will I will talk my way in circles and kind of trying to find a way and whatever. And then it's like 50-50 of like, oh, I feel good about this decision even a week later. It's like, I don't feel good about it. To where then that technique is not, I shouldn't be using that because you're 50-50 on it, dude. Like,
yeah, there's very few things I think, like even in the larger thing of life, that I'm not confirmed on, or I'm not like confident in my thoughts. And the things that I'm not confident in, to me, that's just my sign of I need to think about this longer, or it's not ready for me to think about it yet and make that decision.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I think because there's always been a game plan, or like, I think because I have practiced doing the like being mentally tough, now I can trust myself to such a degree that I know, like, it's okay if you don't know that yet. Focus on the things that you do know and be solid in that and just keep pushing to that. And then to me, it's always like, I just want to build myself up so strong and so like sturdy that I can handle whatever success I want. And whether that's in relationships or business or life or parenting, I want to be able to like be ready for that. So now I'm just like, okay, in this moment today, at this age and with what I'm doing, what choices do I want to make so that I am building myself up? So then it's like, I'm emotionally weak. Well, that's not going to work for any of the things that I want. So I need to logically think about how I'm going to get better at that. And figuring out, if I do have coping mechanisms, what's going to be the least detrimental to me. So it's like, say I'm on those weekends and I'm tired and whatever, is choosing a little bit more caffeine better than me not doing my job appropriately? Yes. So I'm going to choose the caffeine so that I can still show up and do my job and push in that avenue. I can find a different time to work on the caffeine. And then I figure out another time to work on the caffeine. But being able to analyze the situation of like, what needs to be focused on right now? And like, how do I game plan that? Versus just like, I'm just going to like wing it.
Yeah, well, it's something we say all the time. Is like, you can talk yourself into anything or talk yourself out of anything. It's like you can always find excuses or justifications for, any reason. That I think if you don't have that skill, it's like you probably shouldn't be messing with that, because you're going to talk yourself into whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And typically that's dictated by some weird emotional thing that, like, it's just not going to end up well. That I think you're probably got to pick one of the other two. You got to figure out which one you're better at. And I think the physical one is the one that works for me. It's like, if I'm not sure what to do or how to think about something, or I'm having a challenge of some sort, it's like usually going and getting some activity and thinking about it during then, and then shortly after that, I'm a little bit more clear, more logical. My emotions aren't so wrapped up into it. I'm not finding a way to just pick the answer that I want. And I think if you're somebody else that like the emotional, it's like the meditating, or just like being able to really get in tune and know what your emotions are and where they're coming from, and understanding that can be your skill then, or your tool to go, okay, now I'm back to equilibrium. I know what this is about now. Now I can make the correct decision, rather than, it all up in the air or whatever. It's just like, you got to pick the right technique for you.
Yeah. And again, I think that goes back to analyzing the shit out of yourself, and like going back to the critiquing, and like, oh, I don't like that I'm not good at that, or like I don't like when that comes up and there's a struggle. So like, the one thing you have control over is yourself. So I was like, how can I just hone that in and make that a little bit stronger, and then know where do I fault? It's like, it's like you said, you could talk yourself out of things. It's like, well, what things do I typically talk myself out of? Okay, almost like pre-plan for that, so then I know how to like set up a game plan so that doesn't happen. It's like,
that's why having the tool is good, because you know what direction to go then. You know, it's like if something challenging or struggling comes up and you can't figure it out, you then go, okay, but I have this tool that to use. So now I know where to go, rather than just sitting and stewing and stirring and not knowing what to do. It's like, no, I have this tool. I know that when I'm feeling like I'm in a funk or something's weird, go get some activity, even if I've already done it today. It's like, I need more than today for some reason. So I'm going to go do more. I'm going to go get more activity. And that's my tool to get back to equilibrium and think about things clearly.
Yeah.
It's like, you have a direction to go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm out of coffee, so we'll probably end this.
Okay.
Anything else to say?
I don't think so.
Cool. All right. See ya.